The Mekong River is the lifeblood of the region, yet China is in control of its flow. With 7 dams completed and plans to build 21 more, they can severely affect the other 5 countries further downstream. China's political regional hegemony, along with its geographical strategic position in the Mekong Delta, implies that China should be extremely powerful and influential in the region when it comes to issues surrounding the delta. Therefore, we will consider, is China displaying the characteristics of a hydro-hegemon along the Mekong River? First, an understanding of hydro-hegemony is needed. Hydro-hegemony can be defined as hegemony active at the basin scale and occurs where control over transboundary flow is consolidated by the more powerful actors. Based on the framework of Cascao and Zeitoun, 4 types of power will be considered to evaluate China's position as a hydro-hegemony. These include geographical power, material power, bargaining power, and ideational power. Geographical power is derived from the presence of natural resources within a country's geographical boundaries. In this case, China's geographical power stems from the origins of the Mekong River lying within its borders, with between 20 to 70% of the Mekong's total water originating in mainland China. This gives China the power to control the water flows to downstream states. In March 2016, Vietnam was facing severe drought, and China agreed to its request to open its Yunnan Dam to provide emergency use water. Although in this case China decided to cooperate, the very fact that Vietnam had to ask their upstream neighbour for the Mekong's water is evidence of geographical power. Material power relates to a country's military, economic, and technological power. China has substantial military power with one of the biggest armies in the world, as well as being an economic superpower. They have become one of the largest trading partners and primary aid givers to almost every country in the region, shown by the fact that annual funding for Cambodia's river resources is around $600 million, nearly equal to the total of Western donor monetary aid. In addition, China has become the face of megadam construction, suggesting a knowledge and experience from other countries do not have. Bargaining power is the power that refers to the capability of an actor to control the rules of the game and set agendas, in the sense of their ability to define the political parameters of an agenda. It is also evident in the power of actors to influence the terms of negotiations and agreements through their ability to provide and/or influence incentives that may encourage weaker parties to comply. The Langcang-Mekong Cooperation is clearly a bid by China to take control of Mekong matters, after having refused to join the Mekong River Commission and later established the Langcang-Mekong Cooperation in 2015. China holds great power and influence in the region, and has great bargaining power, using its ideational and material capabilities to control other states' actions in the Mekong Delta. An example would be Cambodia, in which recently has been a site of competition between US and Chinese influences. However, China managed to come to an agreement with Cambodia, in which China would fund $7 million of various projects in the country, such as monitoring water quality, restoring forests, and combating land degradation. Ideational power is the ability to control the perceptions and ideals of societies within its own and neighbouring countries, which allows said country to reinforce its legitimacy. For China, ideational power thus constitutes the capacity to impose and legitimise its own ideas and narratives on effective countries, and to influence the agenda, discourse and timing of negotiations and projects in the lower Mekong region. This is often seen through the narrative of wanting to strengthen South-South cooperation as a force that can communally threaten the power of the imperialist West. Growing cooperation between the lower Mekong countries can limit China's ability to be a hydro-hegemony, seen by the establishment of the Lower Mekong Initiative in 2009, which was initially created by the US and does not include China. Added to this, countries such as Cambodia have realised they have a degree of bargaining power in the form of playing the United States and China off against each other for influence in the region. This puts pressure on China to appease its neighbours with economic assistance, such as promising $200 million to aid poverty-affected areas and over $400 million to support small and medium-sized enterprises along the river. Growing criticisms from the lower countries over water flow has also resulted in China sharing more data, as well as releasing water from their dams to aid droughts, evidenced by the November 2002 agreement on the exchange of hydrological data, which agreed to provide daily readings on water levels in the upper Lancang. Yet China still has the upper hand. Although there is greater cooperation, this is rivalled by the Langcang-Mekong Commission, which China controls. Even though China is giving more aid, this just shows their material power and implies a degree of bargaining power over the other countries. Most significantly, though, is the fact that China still controls the water flow. China has great influence over the region, shown by Chinese dam building. Most of its power stems from its geographical position and the influence it has over alternating water flows in the Mekong. Its hydro-hegemony is strengthened by its material power in the forms of economic, technology, and military might. This in turn increases its bargaining and ideational power, strengthening China's influence in the region. There are some diplomatic constraints that counter the rise of China's hydro-hegemony, such as greater cooperation seen by the US-led Lower-Mekong initiative and changes to planned dams. Yet, despite the limitations, China is overwhelmingly demonstrating the characteristics of a hydro-hegemon along the Mekong River.